All right, and we're live with episode 21 of a podcast for all seasons. Today we have some special guests. Me and Eric are going to be talking about a gigantic smorgasbord of comic book news. We have the artist and writer from the new web series From Here On Out as our guest today. I'm going to let Eric introduce him. What's going on, Eric? It's been a little bit.
It sure has, Josh. Hi, everyone listening. This is Eric Joseph of DarkKnightNews.com, ComicBookMovie.com, and Multiverse Entertainment. And yes, it has been a while since we've done our last episode. Josh has been out of town. I believe this time you were doing the twerking regionals, was it?
Yeah, it was a twerking regionals. Yeah. I came in. I got runner-up, and I was third place in a beauty contest. $15. Door prize.
That is some good cash. You can get maybe a pack of bologna with that. But anyway, we will get on with our show. One of our guests today I first met at last year's Detroit Fanfare Comic Con. I bought some art from her, and we kept in touch, and she actually designed the logo for a podcast for all seasons, and we've intended to have her on as a guest at some point before we even did our 0 episode, and she's now got her webcomic finally getting off the ground, and she also has her significant other and creative partner with her on this episode. Please welcome to the show the writer-artist team for From Here On Out, Mercy and War.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having us.
How's it going, guys? Yeah, definitely our pleasure, guys.
So, I guess we started working on the comic, like Josh said, Eric said, about almost a year ago. It's been a while. It took us a really long time to hammer out the artwork, and we were outlining a lot of the story arcs, and we finally got to a place where we could actually start updating regularly. So we're starting with a shorter version of the comic, kind of like a prequel. So
a prequel to a comic that's not out yet.
Exactly,
right.
Exactly.
One might even call it an introduction, but prequel works.
Well, can you get up a little bit closer, War? We didn't quite catch you.
I said one might call it an introduction, but
okay.
A prequel works.
Okay, so you're the epilogue, if you will. It's the intro work.
It's the free comic book day teaser to their overall work.
Right, it's your 0 issue.
Well, I mean, the issue that we had was picking up place to start. We had 4 years of narrative thread to find the end of. It was a big ball of narrative yarn, and we were sort of stretching it out and trying to pick a place that would be pretty much cool to start.
Yeah, basically, we started creating the characters and the story and this huge expansive universe. Probably about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, almost 4 years ago.
Yeah. And we only met about a year ago, and you were showing me some of this stuff. It's like, man, you could make a comic out of this.
The entirety of the series was started on a series of dares, really. We had a couple of friends that would say, we would meet to discuss what we were writing and stuff, and they would say, well, I bet none of us could make, X, Y, and Z work. And one of the things that happened was, I bet you couldn't make an intentionally tropey Golden Age pulp sci-fi character that was endearingly tragic or something like that. And it just kind of started this whole down the rabbit hole thing that ended up growing, I guess, completely out of control.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's slowly become kind of darker and more sexy.
Basically, he had this content, and I kind of commandeered it, and we started going over. Personally, just in general, I've been really bad at any kind of world building. like I've done a lot of writing, and mostly I do graphic design because that's my current job. That's what I'm employed as. But and I've done illustration on the side. But I've always really loved to write. I have a good hand for character interaction, but I've always just really sucked at world building. And here, Wars with all of this like.
I bought worlds.
He basically does.
I'm a backwards Galactus.
I remember like staying up for like 4 or 5 hours a night on the phone with this guy, and he's like describing like star systems that have like all these worlds and like all the different cultures and gods and like everything and then what tech level they're at, and it was amazing. And like just picking a place to start was really difficult, but basically the format of the story is that we have, our central character who is basically running away from a tragic past. But all of our characters really are running from something. That's one of the major themes of the story, is that, most people that you meet are on the run from something, and most people are cowards. And also that, like, if you don't accept that about yourself, you can never really move forward.
It's not so much being sort of... it's in danger of sounding adolescent and kind of maudlin, but we're not all winners, I think we have our moments, but universally everyone has definitely had their major failures or personal major failures, even if it's just like the one that got away, or you turned down a huge opportunity that you didn't really understand at the time, or you didn't take the job that would have made your life better. And I think a big part of growing up is accepting that, accepting that there's a certain amount of normal cowardice that's actually just sort of being alive, and a big part of growing up is dealing with that. So I guess the trophy, one of the major themes of the comic is self-acceptance. In a lot of ways.
Yeah, but
yeah,
it's true. There's also a lot of
space pirates.
Yeah, there's space pirates. Okay, so basically,
are there any ice pirates?
No, not yet. They're not planned yet.
That's a super campy, tropey 80s sci-fi film.
That'd be pretty cool.
So I actually talked to Eric about because I had not known about a ton of the series and what I had seen on your guys' Facebook page and your webpage. It seems ambitious is the word that comes to the top of my head, and it seems pretty deep. You said that you have about 4 years of narrative. Can you give the listeners like a general rundown of some of the basic ideas that you're...
it's a bit high concept, so you seem to have maybe summarized it well in a paragraph description on your Facebook page, but I don't know if you want to reiterate and expand upon that for the listeners, maybe without spoiling too much for them.
Sure. Okay, so the main bulk of the story, which we're not updating yet, it's basically about our character's name is Lishka Nudesny, and he comes from a pretty powerful house in the system. It's called the Ravu system, which is what like humans would know as Vega. And in that star system, there's another like why the worlds are the way they are. There's another like deeper intention to that, which we can't really talk about because of like spoiler alerts. But
I don't think it's too much of a
Are you gonna tell them the Ant Farm universe?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a big part of it. Okay.
All right.
I was arguing about the Drake equation and the Fermi paradox, which I mean. If you're not familiar, it's basically these are two not necessarily conflicting, but sort of opposite theories. That one is essentially an equation for calculating how many worlds could sustain or produce
life as we know it.
And the Fermi paradox is sort of an answer theory that's become like a school of thought, which is where is everybody?
Yeah, if you have an infinite universe with infinite potential, why are we the only ones here?
And one of the big points of the argument was maybe no one's here because somebody else is keeping them away from us. And so a big part of the comic is about how the people in charge that are keeping everybody else in the galaxy from interacting are basically your chaperone empire. For a reason yet to be revealed, the lights kind of go out on their operation, and everyone suddenly is able to go out or hear each other or find each other. So this
is it because the humans finally achieved warp drive?
Actually, it's risky. You want to talk about ambitious?
No, you don't have to spoil it. I'm just more or less making a Star Trek gag.
The time bomb, the timeline for the mythos actually starts just a couple years from now. And no, we don't actually figure out how to we don't crack FTL. It sort of falls in our lap.
Faster than light.
And not really in a fun Mass Effect kind of way. It falls in our lap in a kind of really unfortunate way.
A simple way to consider it would be if you find somebody's super fancy high-tech house, but nobody's in there, but you can still work the toaster. You can figure it out even though you've never seen one before.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Or even,
a superior race left a bunch of their toys laying around.
Right. It's sort of like
so you're saying that an FTL drive is simple enough to work like a toaster? That's pretty impressive.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
This is a point.
In this case, we had we have what's basically a toaster salesman shows up with it, and it's. There's a lot of sneaky backstabbing. There's a lot of cultural commentary about different political ideologies and where they would be if technology outpaces social evolution. I mean, it's a constant argument among sci-fi nerds about if a race achieves technological levels that would allow them to crack FTL or transmatter manipulation and stuff, why would they be warlike? Because it would take so much unification and so much just leaving each other the hell alone so that you could work on things to even get to that point. So you've achieved so much that you sort of lose all your fun, sexy, medieval possibilities of showing up and conquering planets and stuff like that. And it was sort of important for me that one of the challenges, one of the dares that I got was make it work. Make it so that we can have, these kind of Star Wars situations, despite the fact that the technology would deprogram the society behind it, the warlike society behind it. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
So are you arguing, not to get too semantic, but are you arguing that in a truly civilized society there would be no inner war, no civil war?
I think
the technology would dictate it.
What's always been my position on the subject of conflict is that it just has to do with resource acquisition or even religion. Those are sort of your two primary motivators for war. Because otherwise, I mean, if you look at specific civilizations that were never too imperialist and probably as a result didn't do too much, it was because they were sort of fine the way they were. I mean, one of the reasons, in terms of being warlike, Athens is not a great example of being, pacifist, but one of the reasons Greece sort of just rocketed through civilization was because Greece is it's almost like a farm for humans. All the conditions in Greece, the weather, soil quality, stability for seasons and stuff like that is perfect for humans. And there was enough land that you could just sort of get to a certain point and be like, okay, well, let's start thinking about why the hell we're alive in the first place. So I think that if you've
The
gotten
birth of philosophy is a
right. Well, if you've gotten to the point where
sure.
where
You no
don't
longer have to worry about breaking your back in the field. You can sit around and wonder why the stars are
right,
there.
and so what's the science fiction equivalent of that? The science fiction equivalent of that is once you can turn light into meat, you don't need to go around eating people. So
that's actually a pretty interesting way to talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's sort of undiscussed because we need our Shakespeare in space. You know, I know I do, but I unfortunately you get to a certain age and you've read a certain amount of, I don't know, anything, and you start to see that it doesn't quite hold up. But you still kind of, you know, you love the idea of Firefly and Cowboy Bebop, so you want your space cowboys.
So you're saying
But,
it's less Star Wars and more Philip K. Dick novels, is what you're saying?
Actually, our comic is entirely Star Warsy. What I'm saying is.
So you're going against
What
type.
I've tried to do is come up with a viable rationalization for all the sci-fi hypocrisy of the past 60 years.
I love it, so let's make it work because it's wrong.
Right, exactly. So that's why I was alone writing for 4 years.
Yeah.
So how far out? I'm gonna let Eric chime in a bit because I think he's tried to say it, but in a couple of times here and there.
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry.
No, that's okay. No, I was gonna ask real quickly, again for the listeners as well. How far out? You say you've been writing for 4 years. I'm kind of when you guys have mentioned it a couple times. I'm thinking in terms of like seasons of television almost. You know, sometimes you have these writers on these shows, or even in terms of like if you look at Marvel's universe, they have ideas years out, and they have a general guideline or a skeleton, configuration for how they want to go forward in that universe. How far out do you guys see your storytelling at the current state?
Okay, so basically what we have right now is the current story that we're working on, that we're updating, which is like the prequel story. That's like a scene from the childhood of one of the main characters in the main arc. That one is fully scripted. We're probably going to be working on that for like another let's see, if we update 1 page a week, we're probably looking at least 4 or 5 months before we start the bulk of the story. Maybe 6 if we stretch it out. But once the main story starts, we have one big overarching storyline that has like a beginning and an end, and then we have like a couple of main kind of like subplot lines for a couple of characters going on like beneath that, and then we also have a bunch of like little episodic adventures for all the characters. And I don't know, I could easily see this going on for probably 3 or 4 years at least. I mean, we have a lot of content. We're writing a short story also about
probably the first of many.
Yeah, probably the first of many. So I mean, what happened really is, so we have our main character, Lishka, who is fleeing his homeland after being humiliated, and he's, kind of a pirate for a while. He gets some money together, probably not legally. There's maybe a couple of slaver colonies are freed along the way. Not because he's a good guy, but because it is easy to steal from people when you set their guards free. And
he's sort of a Robin Hood or a Zorro by accident.
Yeah, he takes the money. He doesn't give it to the poor, but he probably sets them free in the process. But anyway,
of course he's like so much.
I would consider that, yes. But basically, like the bare structure of the story is he gets a hold of this really old cruise ship, like a space star cruiser. And he like slowly gets together like an actual crew of people, and we'll really be developing the relationships between all the characters and fleshing out like their own backstories and the kinds of people they are. We're dealing with a lot of issues like mental health and like just avoidance and substance abuse. I mean, the main character is just debilitatingly alcoholic a good portion of the time. There's like, and one of our main characters, we haven't discussed this yet, but Pekka is definitely OCD.
Right.
All right, yes, we didn't even talk about it yet, but it was pretty clear. Anyway, so
well, the thing is, in TV terms, we have about 3 seasons. In terms of what we've scriptified from kind of the raw material, we have about that much. But there's so much that, I mean, a lot of the comic is an adaptation of a lot of short stories and a lot of little dialogues and things. I mean,
scraps and notes.
How it really all started was I was not having a really good time, and I was sort of writing therapeutically, and I kind of came up with these characters to hang out with. And after Mercy, I forget. Do you remember how it came up? I think I was just sharing these 2 characters.
I don't really remember, actually.
It was how they talked and the things that sort of happened in their relationship, and eventually Mercy said, "Well, I got to draw these guys."
I did.
And then before I knew it,
I wanted you to think I was cool.
Before I knew it, there was a whole Google Drive folder about the webcomic, and so here we are.
Yeah, so many
and
documents.
Explaining.
So I don't mean to cut you guys off, but Eric, like I said, I was going to give him some time to chime in.
Yes.
Eric, any thoughts and questions that I'm not voicing or thinking of at the time?
Now, I think we've covered most of the story, but before I move on to questions about art, I'm just going to backtrack slightly because there was something I was going to interject when it came to, you were talking about almost like the pragmatics of some technology, like, coming from another world, but if it was in front of you, you'd somehow know how to use it. It's not quite comparable, but for some reason it popped into my head from Independence Day when Jeff Goldblum took down an advanced alien mothership with a 90s computer virus. Yeah.
Listen, they did not have Avast,
Yeah. The aliens they had McAfee as their.
Yeah. Who knew that the aliens were running on Mac?
Jeff Goldblum is like war's patron saint.
Yeah. Well, then again, gentlemen, we are not discussing that it was Mr. Jeff Goldblum that was the hand behind this destruction. The divine wrath of Jeff Goldblum, it supersedes technological conversation entirely.
Well, actually, it's funny because I know that Eric does not intend to mean it in this way, but if you think about what you were talking about earlier about the need for society to kind of get along for technological advancement to the point of creating something like faster than light technology, or if you have a species of people who are not interwarring, why do they need computer virus protection, man? No one's trying to hurt each other.
Whoa.
Did I just blow mine?
Nicely done.
Yeah, those aliens aren't worried about stealing their social security numbers.
Yeah,
right.
They're not worried about credit card fraud. They're worried about being locusts and just taking all of the resources of planet Earth from.
Or there's some huge database in the stars of just all these nudes from infinite amounts of worlds, like just dwarf the iCloud, and I spell that the proper way, N00DZ.
Well done.
But anyway,
no.
I'll move on to the art side now because we've talked about the story for quite a bit. From what I've seen of Mercy's artwork before, it's kind of what I expected, and for those who haven't seen it, I'll link their Facebook page in the article, the blog article this will be in. But it's a bit different than what you might see. I'm not much of a webcomic reader, I'm more of a print guy, just the traditional comic books with staples. But what's interesting, it's like you're getting cover or variant cover artwork for interiors. what Mercy's artwork, it's kind of comparable to, you know, what you might see on some indie covers, or maybe what Marvel's done lately with Hawkeye. I hope you take that as a compliment too. But
She's smiling a lot.
could you describe maybe some of your artistic influences, or when you feel appropriate to use certain looks for things in the book? I mean, well, I'm calling it a book. There I go. I'm an old guy.
Nah, you can call it a book. It's, you know, it's a book. You just read it on a web page instead of a paper page. And, you know, eventually we do plan on like, if it takes off and if enough people like it, I mean, we could definitely do a Kickstarter and maybe people would actually want a published copy. That'd be really cool. But as far as the artwork goes, I really I've done like actual like paintings and things in real life. I've drawn a lot of things by hand, but when I do design work, most of the backgrounds are done with a mouse, actually, because as a graphic designer, like logo design, it's the same kind of thing. I didn't really like go into it thinking about a certain aesthetic. I just War just wanted lots of like really bright colors, and he wanted it to just be really, you know, pretty and joyous, even though a lot of the themes were very somber. And I struggled with that at first. I needed to have a limited palette so that I could make sure all the colors worked well together. But after we figured that out, I think it looks, you know, I think it looks good. I'm okay like looking at it and not hating myself. But
what program are you using, Mercy? What are you
Adobe
using?
Illustrator.
Okay. I'm looking at the art of your as the is it Kaleo, the you call her
Yeah,
the space
Kaleo,
gypsy.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I dig it a lot, and I was telling Eric it kind of reminds me of old like print or pop art. It kind of it's like
Yeah.
if Mucha was drawing on a Mac.
Yeah.
I imagine
Okay.
it would look very similar to this. It's very like Art Nouveau style, at least this particular piece. And then some of your like backgrounds. There's the one where you kind of see it looks like there's like space domes and like housing. It almost
Yeah.
looks like print ads of the future of 1960. If you get what
Right.
I'm saying, I really dig
Actually,
it.
in Superman the Animated Series, in like the making of, I think they talk about how the aesthetic they were looking for was kind of like a future past.
Right,
Um,
right. Anachronistic.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of flat colors. Like, I guess the way that like traditional hand animation looks, actually a lot of anime, a lot of like really like just really clean lines and a lot of clarity between shapes. Um, it took me a very long time to learn basically about kind of how shapes move together on a two-dimensional I guess landscape. But yeah, I outlines are important to me, but also shapes are important to me too. So like I kind of vary between them. Some characters like the picture of Kaleo, the concept art of her, that's all done with like the blob tool basically. So that has to do with pen pressure, so that like the harder you push, the thicker the line is, and that helps you get like really nice even like swooshes and things like that. And like tapered lines, and you can vary line thickness, but that was almost done, and those kinds of pictures are done almost like a painting, because you're just like you're just making like a flat shape and then changing the shape of it to to describe the form that you're trying to illustrate. But like when you're doing just line art, I try to keep the lines like as thin as possible, and if I like doing like thicker outlines when I have like big solid black, or not black, big solid backgrounds, it just didn't seem to stand out as much. Like you guys don't even know just how many pages I went through just of artwork that I just destroyed. Like I just deleted. I mean, I would come to War and I'd be like, okay, what do you think of this? And like, oh, that looks good. I'm like, I hate it, and like I couldn't
I
look at
hated
it
it
from.
going in the incinerator.
Exactly, in the big delete file. Like I couldn't stand looking at it, because the problem is that I mean, neither of us really have a whole lot of time, and I really want these panels to look good. I do. It's very important to me. But I also can't make myself crazy doing it, because I could easily spend like 12 to 15 hours a week on a panel, and I just don't have that time to do it. So I had to come up with a way that I could make it look the way I wanted it to without like killing myself by not getting any sleep, and also, just consistency was really important to me.
Right.
And
So I don't mean to cut you guys off. I want you guys to say everything you want to say about the comic. We're almost about the half-hour mark, and so we're gonna kind of veer towards other stuff. I'd be quite happy to talk about this. I was actually gonna say real quick that I don't know if you guys are familiar. There was a video game from the '90s called Flashback, and it had this super high def video for the time, and the art almost reminds me of that. It's almost this future past, like you said. It's very animated style, anyone who hasn't checked out their webpage needs to check it out, and their Facebook page. We're gonna let you guys pimp that real quick and whatnot, and then we're gonna move on. So why don't you guys give everybody your where they can find your stuff, where they can check out your work, and then we'll go on to the next topic.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Our Facebook is From Here On Out, and our website is just warandmercy.com. War like the Civil War, and mercy like you could do your Schwarzenegger impression if you would like.
Mercy. I would say Mercy Graves from Superman the Animated Series.
Oh man, I love Mercy Graves.
I was going to ask one more question before we move on. It's not that intensive, but before the show, we were talking about cons, and you won't be appearing at one in the immediate future, but do you plan on selling prints from this series at future cons?
Yes, we absolutely do. I was actually, this is premature, but I was actually, when I was at work today, I had some free time, so I was designing little business cards with our website and everything on them, and they were really cute. I didn't make them, but I was thinking about them. So yes, eventually, I do envision we'll be selling prints. We'll have like promotional pages. I'm sure we'll probably, yeah.
Okay. Don't give your boss the invitation to this web video.
My boss left early.
I was working on these while I was at work. I actually have one more quick question. So we have talked with at least one other webcomic creator, and in terms of the speed of putting out the comic, how fast do you think you're going to get out a page here, a page there? You want it to be consistent, and you want it to have quality to your art, and obviously you have a general idea of your storytelling in line. How quickly can people who enjoy it expect to see new content from you guys?
Well, right now we're updating on Sundays.
Okay.
So,
obviously, we'd like to go as fast as possible, but right now speed is really dependent on, I guess our circumstances in real life.
yeah, but I mean, it also depends on the page, because some pages are more labor intensive than others. And I use terms like labor intensive or like building, because it really is like a construction project. It's not even like a fancy kind of like inspirational art thing. It's like, oh no, I have to build the freaking background. I have to like draw the lines a million times so that it looks consistent. But I mean, depending on what's going on in each panel, I actually, once again, my boss doesn't need to hear this, but I was able to work on the bulk of the background for this week's update while I was at work today, because all of my regular work was finished. So, but anything I have to do with the tablet, I got to do at home. So some panels, we'll have more mouse work, which I can do, when I should be doing my regular job. Exactly.
I know that anyone who reads comics and has this situation happen where they have a delay, it's always like a knife in the back. It's like, no, we want more content, and we want it now. So that's the only reason I ask. Well, Eric, let's move on. I'm going to have you kind of start off the topics, because we have pretty much news from the last couple weeks when I was out of town, and there was just so much happening. We couldn't get a show together. There wasn't
Even
really enough
today.
content. Yeah, even today, there wasn't enough content before I left to really get a good show together. And as we've said before, we don't really like just putting on a show when we don't have anything to say. We don't see the point, and it's boring for you guys to sit there and listen to if we have nothing to say. So we got a lot of, I mean, the shit has really just hit the proverbial fan, and it's just, there's new content from all sides of everything coming out every day. Let's have you take it over, Eric, and let us know what's been going on, and you can start off talking about the first, I don't know, news item, I guess.
Yeah, so basically what I'll say, we're not going to talk about these topics one at a time because then we'll be here all night. I'll run down them all and maybe give my 2 cents here and there, then I'll turn it over to Josh and then to War and Mercy because we're obviously all huge comic book nerds here and all of us at least have some kind of love for some of the characters. But yeah, over the past few weeks, more news has come out, and I remember in the earlier episodes of this show, when we would cover a topic on an episode, there happened to be a huge piece of news about it coming out that day, and luckily it happened today because when I was throwing the agenda together earlier today, before I get into all the specifics, Mercy can attest to this, I was just thinking, oh, we'll talk to this, and I was talking to her over Facebook IM, and it's like, oh, speak of the devil, this show has now been officially picked up. It was like right at that time. And I'll get to those topics right now. First, we'll talk about the movie side of things. A few weeks ago, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was officially cast as Black Adam in a Shazam movie.
Greatest casting ever.
Yeah, we don't have a date yet. We don't know who's going to be playing Shazam, and plus, we're going to need a pretty good child actor to pull off Billy Batson, because the heart of it is that this is a kid who says a magic word to become a superhero, which is one of the things that led to when he was called Captain Marvel, he was outselling Superman in the Golden Age because it was a genius concept. Boy becomes a superhero. But I expect that I really think Shazam will be hitting theaters 2016 or 2017 because, as we know, Warner Brothers has 9 dates locked in for mystery DC films after Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. And then also on the DC side of things, I have an article up at darkknightnews.com. This isn't a confirmed movie yet, but we know Warner Brothers has wanted to get a Suicide Squad movie off the ground lately. And, they've been finding popularity outside of the comics. They've been on Arrow. We've had a version of the team prominently featured in Batman Assault on Arkham, the recent animated movie, which was really a Batman movie in name only. It was a Suicide Squad movie, but I think it's in the top 5, my personal top 5 of animated Batman movies to date. It's not confirmed what characters would be in it, but they are circling a director right now. Chuck Roven, who I believe he produced Batman Begins, is supposed to be on as producer, and I would assume this would come 2016 or 2017. I really think Warner Brothers wants to get Suicide Squad off the ground, and this isn't like a few years ago when they were saying like, oh, we've got these movies in development, but nothing ever happened. I really think that now Warner Brothers has a fire lit under their ass, and when they say they want to put a superhero movie out these days, I think now it's time to start believing them. And then as we go over to, at least the Fox Marvel side of things, out of nowhere, a Deadpool movie has been confirmed. And that has been set for February 2016. Yeah, it's going to get here even before X-Men Apocalypse or Batman vs. Superman are here. Ryan Reynolds has not been officially announced for the movie, but it's pretty much expected that he's going to do it. And while we're on the topic of Fox, the Fantastic Four reboot has been delayed from June of 2015 to August. Not that big of a shift, but as we know, 2015 is a packed year for blockbusters, and maybe they thought they needed a little more time for post-production. Maybe they thought June was too crowded and they would be able to thrive more in August, so they moved it. And maybe they took a lesson from Guardians of the Galaxy saying, hey, a film can be highly profitable if it's released in August. And as I've said on the show before with Fox, kind of more getting their shit together with superhero movies, I wish them all the best with Fantastic Four, and I hope it's a runaway hit, because we're not going to reiterate it here, but in a past episode we talked about how Marvel Comics has kind of been in the process of locking out characters that are appearing in Fox-related movies. So again, I'm optimistic about Fantastic Four, and if it sucks, it sucks, but we'll know next year. And then on the TV side of things, just so much. Think about this: a year from now, if every show premiering this season is a hit, we could have 8 live-action TV shows based on DC properties. As we know, we already have Arrow on the CW, which will be joined by The Flash soon, which looks to be also a spectacular show. I think Arrow and The Flash will be on the same level of quality, but they're different tones, because The Flash is going to be lighter, and Arrow is a bit darker. And then we have Gotham on Fox, which I've seen some of the featurettes, and I'm liking the show more and more. And I just hope that Fox thinks the ratings are decent and they don't can it after 6 episodes like they do with everything. But
Yeah.
I believe Gotham's first season is supposed to be 16 episodes, as opposed to the 22 or 23 that we're used to getting from the CW. Then of course we have Constantine on NBC. iZombie premieres on the CW mid-season, probably January. But I think it's iZombie that's the biggest wild card. I don't know if that's going to resonate with fans as much, because it's not, a superhero tale. Not that Constantine's a superhero, but he definitely lives in a fantastical world. And, they've just cast Spectre for the show, and they've dropped the Easter egg of Dr. Fate. So they're building a supernatural DC universe over on NBC. And who knows, they could do Spectre spin-offs down the line. It's just, it's getting really insane. And then, of course, Titans was a big story last week, and especially fans of Young Justice, like I know Mercy was a big fan of that show.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
TNT, of course, a Warner Brothers, Time Warner owned network. It's not a done deal yet, but it probably will be. I would say we'll get an announcement soon, because Titans, of course, will be a live-action show about teen superheroes based on the Teen Titans Young Justice formula. We do know the team is led by Nightwing, and it seems like it's probably when he starts to go off on his own after going solo from Batman. And I and many others have been clamoring for a live-action Nightwing. I think it's possible they've said Raven or Starfire might be in it, but we'll see if they flesh out the team. Be cool to see Superboy on it as well, but Titans will also bring a different dynamic to the primetime superhero formula, because even though some of these casts have their ensembles with their supporting characters, every show so far has that one central character, and now Titans, we're going to get a true ensemble, so it's a different thing, if you will. And then, of course, Lucifer, another Vertigo property, much like iZombie, Lucifer now has a put pilot over at Fox, and it's more of a Sandman associated character, and a Sandman movie is probably coming in a few years, because Neil Gaiman has even said it's in pre-production right now. But Lucifer will also be on Fox, but maybe the fact that Gotham is on there will allow them to have more confidence in Lucifer. But I think it's kind of funny, doing some research, Lucifer first appeared in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, much like Darkseid, so I guess like the most evil guys in the universe. pop up around Jimmy Olsen when we first see them.
He's got the moxie to handle them.
He's a magnet for evil weirdos.
But when we talk about put pilot, that means you're pretty much guaranteed to be on air. But I still say that doesn't mean it's a totally done deal, because a few years ago, The Punisher had a put pilot on Fox, and it never happened. But like I said, with Gotham there, maybe Fox is going to have more of a confidence, and maybe they now have a good working relationship with DC Entertainment. And the other big story, the one that dropped right as we were on IM earlier today, I was saying, there's a Supergirl show possibly on the way, and then lo and behold, Supergirl has been confirmed by the major trades, and Warner Brothers, it was on DCComics.com. Of course, no casting news yet. I would say we probably shouldn't expect casting news until maybe early 2015 when they get ready to shoot the pilot. But luckily the show is called Supergirl, because there was talk of the show being called Super or Girl. And I'm luckily, I was like, why not
grown
era? And it's going to be on CBS, which was, ABC has the Marvel shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter, and CBS was the one network that didn't have it. And of course, CBS is a Warner Brothers affiliated network. And I never said it outright in an article, but I really thought that Supergirl was going to go to CBS, and it. I wish them all the best, because being on CBS will allow for a higher budget than you would get on the CW, so maybe we'd be able to get more realistic flights. Just see everything extraordinary Supergirl can do, and it gives.
What if there's no flights, no tights, though?
it gives female viewers something to aspire to, I think, because we're kind of in the need for more female heroes in the public eye. I mean, we've got Wonder Woman there now for DC, but Warner Brothers and DC have been doing a big push on Supergirl merchandise in the past few years, and it's been said that they've wanted to do something big with her. And I think that the show probably will turn out well, because Greg Berlanti is one of the producers on it. He's one of the executive producers on Arrow and The Flash, and he's a lifelong comic book fan, and he also produced The Tomorrow People, which got canceled after one season. And well, the Tomorrow People was more, I'd say, a sci-fi show. It certainly did appeal to superhero fans, and I personally thought it was a really good show. I said this, I think all the way back in episode 6 of this show, but it got canceled. You might be able to find it on DVD, but hey, Robbie Amell, who is the lead, got himself one hell of a windfall by being cast as Firestorm on The Flash, so we don't have to worry about him. But again, Supergirl, basically, they talked about reinterpreting her origins, but from the log line they gave of the show, it still sounds like more a traditional Supergirl. She's been on Earth for a while, and she's 24 as we join her on the show, and she's just going to start exhibiting some of her powers and being a force for good in the world. And we're probably going to get emotional character arcs and see how she tries to adjust to being an Earth girl and whatnot. And it seems that, yes, Superman does exist in this universe. I just don't know if we'll see him. Maybe we'll drop hints like, oh, it was great to see Clark. We had lunch 5 minutes ago, and then you cut to the chair, it's still twirling.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll get that ridiculous, but I think that they'll probably have writers who are competent enough to say, here are reasons why Kara has to go it alone, and maybe they'll give her more contemporary villains for her. They could even use some Superman villains that they don't intend to use in the upcoming movies. They're easily villains you can put a Supergirl spin. It's kind of like if any of you watched the animated series of The Batman that ran from 2004 to 2008, when they brought in Batgirl and Poison Ivy together on the show, but they gave it a spin because they wanted Poison Ivy to be more of a contemporary for Batgirl. So if they brought in, like, say, Volcana or something like that,
Dude, Banshee, come on,
Love them.
Silver Banshee.
Yeah, they could really they could beef up Supergirl's rogues gallery, because as we see on superhero shows these days, the gloves are off pretty much from the get-go, because, you know, as Smallville developed, even especially in those last 3 seasons, guest characters, heroes and villains became the rule and not the exception, and now these shows are doing it off the bat, and guess what? It works. I don't think anything's been backfiring for superhero shows lately, but I've been blabbing on about Supergirl for a bit. So
You really have.
Josh, what any finer points do you want to say about any of these announcements before we turn it over to our guest?
It's been just like two good solid weeks of just WTF. I mean, I've been like every other day. It's just like blows my mind. So for first things first, I'll kind of run through the list as well. So the Deadpool movie, I don't know if anyone had seen like the little video they did. It was like the CG, almost like previs stuff, you know, to kind of give the tone of the movie, or give the tone of if the movie's anything like that, it's going to be absolutely. First things first, it's going to be like insanely meta, and it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be riotously hilarious, and it's going to be pretty awesome. So I think that's going to be. It's almost like the outrageousness of a Sin City with none of the seriousness, which is a pretty interesting thing. And it's kind of pretty much how the Deadpool comics are. Yeah, although I have not read a ton of them, I've picked up a few issues here and there. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, we're finally getting a confirmation. Yeah, when we finally get a confirmation that that Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool or something like that, people will finally stop hating him for Green Lantern, and you'll finally have all the Marvel fanboys stop saying how horrible Ryan Reynolds is again. But Black Adam, The Rock is Black Adam. I mean, is there better casting? Are you not entertained, America? That's pretty much my thoughts on that entire thing. The only thing that's kind of disturbing about The Rock is Black Adam is that guy is such an alpha, and he has such gravitas when he is a monstrous beast man that, like, who can throw down with him? What male actor of age is going to play Captain Marvel / Shazam and go, even realistically toe-to-toe with him? And then
John Lovitz.
Who are we gonna?
John Lovitz.
John Lovitz. Exactly. No, they're gonna bring Sly out of retirement again, and then he's gonna go toe-to-toe with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. No, but that's pretty interesting. Yeah, but yeah, you also need the child actor that is impressive and lovable and all that stuff. And if they play their card right, they could have the male version of Frozen. They could have a box office phenomenon on their hand. You get a bunch of little boys. Well, I mean, I know that you kind of snicker, but you want to know why Frozen's the #1 animated movie of all time? Because it got 51% of the population to spend all their goddamn money. And so, if you can get little boys to go crazy, I read a statistic that said something like $3 billion of merchandising, which is one of the highest merchandising draws of all time, is the result of the Cars movie series, which is actually only, I think, made maybe less than $1 billion for the 2 existing movies. I think something like $500-600 million. But $3 billion in merchandising, because they're just going to sell the shit out of Cars stuff. Well, eventually, hopefully, they'll sell the shit out of Shazam stuff, and little boys will love it, and it will be awesome for the big boys as well, the grown-up children, such as myself and Eric. But that's going to be a pretty interesting thing. But the shows, just absolutely fucking outrageous. Teen Titans, Lucifer, Supergirl, Arrow, The Flash, Constantine. It's just absolutely outrageous. For every fantastic movie that Marvel has put out, and everyone's been kind of going like, when's DC going to get their shit together, or when's Warner Brothers? That's me and Eric try to make the distinction for the people who don't realize that they're 2 separate entities. when's Warner Brothers going to get their shit together and finally go, hey, we have these properties. They're doing it on the show side in ways that I think Marvel will never catch up on at this point. If they do, it will be very impressive. They're going to try with their Netflix properties and whatnot, but I mean, Arrow's a hit. It's absolutely gigantic for CW, and I think Flash is going to be very successful as well. I'm a little concerned about Constantine, but with the success of Supernatural, I think that it has a place. Like iZombie, I mean, really, that's neither here nor there. I think zombies are pretty huge still, so it's possible. People love Teen Titans, comic book fans, but also if you can make tweens like it, that's going to make it pretty successful. If you can get the Hunger Games Twilight audience into Teen Titans, it will be hugely successful. And they're bringing back Justice League animated, which makes me very, very happy. We love the Justice League and comics in general. The few that really I'm a little bit concerned about is first things first, the Suicide Squad movie. People were concerned or even suspecting that they might make a spin-off show from Arrow with the Suicide Squad. And the fact that they're doing a movie is kind of interesting to me. My question is, how is it going to tie into the DC universe proper, or the DC cinematic universe that Warner Brothers is trying to create? Also, Supergirl. We get the idea that none of these shows are really going to be tying into the cinematic universe, at least not wholly, and so it's a little bit of a concern. But Lucifer, that's that along with iZombie, I think is a gamble. I mean, people like the anti-hero nowadays. If they go a lot more Milton with it and a lot less fire and brimstone with it, they'll probably do themselves a service, which, it really depends on which variation of the character they're doing, like the early Vertigo stuff or the New 52 stuff with Lucifer. But I'm not extraordinarily familiar with the character. I don't read a ton of Sandman, so that one's a little bit of a question for me. But Supergirl, I think that one could be an absolute just knock it out of the park hit, or it could be really mediocre, and we'll have to see. But the upcoming ones like Gotham and I'm going to have to wait to see Gotham and Constantine. They look impressive. They look like they can be really good, but putting out a show is a lot different than a good idea. But we're getting close up on the hour, so we won't drone on about this a lot. And in the next few weeks, we're going to get a lot more news. So Eric, let's get through the process of wrapping it up. And
well, I was gonna say, yeah, let's let Warren Mercy.
Oh yeah, by all means. Yeah, that was part of my wrapping it up.
No, just very, very briefly. I've read the Sandman series twice. Not any of the newer books that have come out, but and War just read through it recently too. And I'm pretty excited about a Lucifer show. Like
If you had to pick one character to make a TV show, I think he's a solid choice.
Yeah,
But do you want to talk about the? Oh, well, actually, real quick before I do some prodding, did either of you guys get a chance to see a film called The Only Lovers Left Alive?
No, not heard of it.
Okay,
well,
so
it basically showcased the absolute perfect cast. Almost the film is, I could say it's about vampires, but it really works almost like a proof of concept for how to make a Sandman movie or TV show, and this is the cast to do it.
Yeah, it was
We had a
pretty
dream,
funny.
a delirium, and a desire. It was like Tilda Swinton, Tom Hiddleston, and the little one. I don't
know who. Anyway, but yeah, so
but real
the
quick,
dynamic.
Can we talk about the Deadpool thing that you did?
Oh, the Deadpool. No, let's
by
not
the way,
talk about the
By the way,
Deadpool
everyone
thing.
who wanted a Deadpool movie, you're welcome. Because I don't know. If you guys have
Okay,
seen
so all right, this is pointless. But first off, I'm super excited about the Deadpool movie. I made a dumb little infographic, and this is not why they're making the movie.
Find it, and share it.
Don't anyway. But like the next day, it had like 30,000 hits, and that was cool. It was basically like, please make this movie. and
It was Yellow Box.
it was Yellow Box. Anyway, that aside, I don't know if you guys have like looked at the leaked script for the Deadpool movie that came out like 3 years ago, but the test footage that they released recently, or leaked, or whatever you want to call it, it was like straight from that script, and the script is fantastic. I mean, obviously they have to update a lot of the jokes. I'm sure they've completely revamped it, but as long as I don't really know very much about directing, but as long as all their ducks are in a row in that aspect, I think it should be a fantastic movie, because yeah, Ryan Reynolds has been wanting to be Deadpool for like he's been attached to the project for probably 4 years, right?
Well, probably the same with the rest of us that grew up with Deadpool. We all wanted to be Deadpool.
We all wanted to be
understand.
Deadpool. Yeah, you hate Deadpool, but
Well, I really liked him when I was 8. But,
come on.
But then I found Lobo, and that's what happened to me.
Lobo is pretty awesome.
The original Deadpool?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lobo, the original
Oh my
Deadpool.
God! Thank you so much.
Oh. That's what.
That's an argument we don't have to.
Well, I'll tell you.
Deathstroke and Lobo are the original Deadpool.
It's true.
I say Slade Wilson is greater than Wade Wilson.
Ooh.
Oh man, all of you guys.
It is true, but no, you have to appreciate. See, here's the thing that no one wants to talk about. When you're talking about pure power levels, what power levels do you have to break the fourth wall? I mean, we're talking. He's got some cosmic powers that no one wants to mention.
Have you seen Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe?
Yeah, I've
read
seen
it
briefly. I've seen.
Oh man, it's so cool. He basically like at the end of it. I mean, this isn't really a spoiler. It's been out forever. But at the very end of it, after like he kills everybody in the Marvel Universe, he like steps out of the page and you see him creeping up on the artists to draw the strip. But it's cool, like,
can we...
Hold on. The argument that you can make about Deadpool is that he's just a crazy person and doesn't actually connect with the audience. Like, he could just be talking to himself in his head. But, I mean, you're along for the ride. I like the idea that he breaks the fourth wall, but for people who don't like that, like War, it could just be part of his psychosis.
Well, it's really fun to think that he lives in this world with all these, like, bombastic superhero people, and he's just like, oh, well, my life is a comic book. Like, as a mental sickness is really kind of a very seductive idea.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't even have to be. It's an awesome way to take a very dark subject of dissociative disorder and have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Which is something, I think it's a coping mechanism for people in the real world, too, to pretend for a second that you're a superhero, which sort of makes him, because he's not a very sympathetic character. You're not worried about Deadpool's soul.
I'm worried about Deadpool's soul.
But that's where he wins. He's living the life that you're living when you're 9 years old and you don't want to do math homework. You wish you could just be a red ninja with machine guns. He's right there with you, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Supergirl?
I don't know.
Do you have anything to say about Supergirl?
I like Supergirl. I hope they do.
It's like me with Deadpool.
I don't dislike Supergirl. I like her a lot. I really hope it's a good show. I mean, for me, it's just down to the writing. If it's good writing.
That's the thing, and what's going to break writing is always pandering. If you have a lot of micromanagement with, like, I want to picture with a musical number, like what's gonna ruin your project is
if they don't make her dance to Beyonce like the horrible Wonder Woman script, I think we're all gonna be.
Yeah.
Well, the cool thing about Supergirl has always been that she doesn't have Clark Kent's problem where we don't actually know why he's a good person. It's like they're just kind of like, oh, these two like hicks raised him, and he turned out to have all this social capital that they don't account for.
Okay, look.
Whereas Supergirl is
down home growing like
right,
old-fashioned
so
Americana raising. I mean, what they.
He should be really into Bruce Springsteen and working on his car, and I actually not a journalist probably, and probably racist.
Oh man, I want a show about Lois Lane.
He's from Kansas, not Alabama. I mean,
that's true. They picked a very socially diplomatic place to grow their super.
Technically, in the New 52, when Superman was at first wearing, a blue T-shirt with the S and the jeans with the patches and the little red cape, Bruce Springsteen actually was an influence on that look.
Right. Yeah, he was great in the new Action Comics and the New 52 and stuff. I don't know. I love him so much. I love him and Jimmy talking about sci-fi movies and
Playing
being
video
dorks and
games.
stuff. And I really really love to see a really fun direction to take his humanity. But what's cool about Supergirl is that she's not really a classic social victim,
I mean,
but she deals with the fact that she's the other Superman, and she
and is
also
constantly trying to prove herself, which
Right.
humanizes her.
yeah,
Okay.
you kind
I
of
could see that.
you got the same problems as Supergirl.
Yeah.
You want to be Superman too.
You want to be cool like your big brother.
Right, but
everyone likes him more.
But what's really going to make or break any project with her is how much we're going to try and make her, this Harlequin character.
Yeah,
who
they
falls in
need to
love
treat her
and-
like a person, not like a girl. They need to
Right.
write her the way they wrote Korra from Legend of Korra.
Well, here's what you do: you write a Superman show and you make it about Supergirl.
Yeah,
you make her. Supergirl thinks more than Superman. I feel like she in every incarnation spends a lot more time sort of being contemplative.
Don't
She's
think
but
Super.
also a girl, so she's always lost in thought.
Right.
Oh,
Whoa.
Snap.
I can see what you were talking about micromanagement, because I almost said it before I was saying I was ranting too much earlier, was that, the CW isn't as big as CBS, but one thing I don't want guys in a boardroom to dictate what they think Supergirl should be, because we've had that with the Catwoman movie, and Catwoman is my favorite female character, and
Yeah, and it was a nightmare.
yeah, you can't even call that because it wasn't Catwoman.
Well, what was funny was that, like, when we were kids, either one of us could have written a better screenplay for that movie
Yeah.
than what we got. You read one Catwoman comic, and it's decidedly the opposite of what we saw on the screen.
Yeah, because they probably didn't read a single comic. She has cat
Exactly.
powers, right? And let's give her a villain that.
She has magic cat powers. She is one of the many women throughout history who are cat avatars. She's
Yeah.
a magic Catwoman. That's what? What?
Yeah.
And then we had Josh mentioned that Wonder Woman show that thankfully went down the shitter at NBC, because I never saw the pilot, but I read about the script from it, and the costume was atrocious, but basically the script, it was what guys in a boardroom thought Wonder Woman should be, and
Right.
they wrote pop songs into the script, like she's kicking ass to Beyonce, having
Yeah.
pajama parties to Katy Perry, and
Yeah.
Wonder Woman is a frat boy. She's not going to be
Well,
listening
no,
to
what-
Katy Perry.
Wonder Woman she's supposed to be a classical Greek hero.
They have
She's
to
supposed
stop
be
her
like,
from killing people
yeah,
who piss her off.
like murdering. So she's the newer Wonder Woman that everyone's mad about is kind of a little more sensible. I've always loved Wonder Woman. I have a Wonder Woman wallet. I've been outside
does.
of a tattoo place considering getting a Wonder Woman symbol over my chest a couple times.
you mean the Wonder
I would
Woman
advise
comic
it.
that is one of
What's
the best titles in the New 52 that people bitch about?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of really hilarious backlash about how they've made her too mean or too violent or something, and it just
Has anyone watched Justice League Unlimited?
right. It's like
Yeah.
this has been
Or
a
the
long
Wonder
time.
Woman animated movie.
We're finally
Yeah.
The Wonder Woman comic book.
we're we're just. I feel like we're finally letting Wonder Woman be Wonder Woman, and I don't know. I'm really glad that we're not doing the late '90s girl power thing with Wonder Woman, because it's
No. You know what? You want to know how
that's what they're
Wonder
trying
Woman
to do.
should be in the context? Make her like Lagertha from Vikings, where she is like a wholly
Right.
capable, independent, badass woman. Oh yeah, by the way, she fights with guys who are also badass on occasion, but she doesn't need them there to take care of herself. Yeah, make her strong and independent, and don't shy away from the whole Greek mythology.
Yeah,
deity heritage.
She's like 6 foot tall and like super muscular. She's taller than Superman.
she goes around killing gods.
Yeah.
Like she's not
So does Hawk Girl.
right.
Okay,
well,
well,
Hawk
hey,
Girl.
we could wax intellectual about shows and
Right.
all
Right.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm gonna have you guys give a holler out for your webcomic one last time, and then we're gonna call it a night.
right.
We're past the hour, and we don't want people to want to kill themselves to listen to an hour-long podcast. So where can we find from here on out?
Yeah, so our website is warandmercy.com, and you can find it right on the very first page that comes up is a link to the first installment of the comic, which is called Behind the Throne. So yes, warandmercy.com, and we can be found on Facebook under From Here On Out.
And you read the comic. It has lots of murder and cannibalism
and
sacrilege
sex and science. And fiction
and a lot of things for you to yell at me about mishandling, so I can desperately explain that these are calculated mistakes that are sort of supposed to be fun.
So, but yeah,
space pirates,
space
gypsies,
not to be confused with ice pirates. Okay.
Not to be
too many
confused.
space guys.
So check them out. And Eric, any last words before we wrap it up?
Yeah, obviously we won't have time to get into new comics this week, but I will say on the review side of things, check out darkknightnews.com this week for my reviews for Batman Futures End #1 and the Multiversity Society of Superheroes Conquerors from the Counterworld #1. Yeah, that's the full title of the comic book. And nothing on the Archie side of things for me this week, but in case they do send something, stay tuned to the review section at comicbookmovie.com. I do have a review of a graphic novel that will be up Tuesday on darkknightnews.com. I can't say what it is due to embargo as usual. I will say it's not a Batman book, but Batman is in it, and it's kind of relevant to what we've been talking about for, the past few minutes. So look forward to that. It was a very good book, and read the book once you see what the review's about. And my reviews are always as good as the book anyway. But anyway, again, I will link their Facebook page in our post over at the Multiverse Entertainment blog. That's right. Check out our blog page at multiverseentertainment.wordpress.com, and be sure to like us at Facebook at facebook.com/a-podcast-for-all-seasons. So until next time, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for being with us, Mercy and more. Definitely looking forward to checking out your webcomic, and hopefully everyone who's listening does as well. Until next time, have a good night, guys.
Thanks so much.